Rohit, coming back to you. We discussed talent models, but between you and Aradhana and others over here, there's a lot of IP owners sitting on this stage, right? As a production house, you'd love to own your IP. As a platform, you'd love to own the IP. Where is this headed? Are we going to see this changing? And where's my helmet? I should get one, right? Yeah, okay. How do you see this evolving in the future? Who's going to own the IP?
Ashish, I think this negotiation around IP, commercialization rights, unfortunately, is a bit of an organized play. It's an organized play. It's a bit of a tussle that requires large consolidated players on both the side. Independent producers are driven by a different set of goals. Their economics are typically here and now. I think they will generally find it difficult with platforms to be able to get ownership. And to be fair, sometimes they're also driven by sort of a little bit of money today versus
long-term return.
Long-term thought process. Just it's a different thought process, and they generally may not have that much distribution negotiation capability, right? So I think organized players will always have that better ability, so which is where studios come into play. Because they also have global distribution centers, because while you can retain your IP, what do you do with that unless you have
distribution becomes pretty much one of the most important aspects.
It does. I mean, the amount of discussion we had, focus we had around China, because it opens up a distribution channel.
Yeah.
If you don't have access to that, what do you do with that, right? The second is, we in general as a market haven't really valued our library, our IP. While we love to talk about it, we love to own the right. If you own it, what do you do with that, right? I think in general past, historically, we found easy way. You go to YouTube and you'll find practically everything that's 3, 4, 5 years old. And the number of stories we hear in the West where some of the big content, whether it's Friends, Big Bang, Mad Men from Lionsgate, so many of these stories, which even 20, 30 years, 40 years after their release, are finding more value today than they've ever found.
Are we incapable of building that franchise? Is it correct to call it a franchise model, or is it an IP model, whatever you call it? But, a simple thing like, Star Wars and how it's evolved, or it's not a simple thing. I shouldn't say simple thing at all.
I mean, these are two separate issues, right? Yeah. So let me come to franchise later, but I'm saying, unless you value your IP, so there are two challenges to that. One is, do you have the negotiation? If you get it, what are you doing with it?
Right.
And I think the mentality generally is, how much money can I make at the time of release? And then it gets out of your head. Whereas I think there is a little bit of more organized play over there. When they take their IP, they also value it for years and years, and they mine it better. So we don't have that mining. On the franchise, look,
I have to go deeper into this because it's so interesting. Mining that IP, so important. Yeah, we've seen RRR 1 and 2, but will there be an RRR 10 in 2030?
Not just that, but how are you monetizing RRR 1 and 2 forever to come?
Sorry, Anuradha like to say something here.
I'd like to I'll give you an unstripped example for this, because that's an example I can talk about. We still have our stripped releases to come up. But, there's a time when you signed your deal, like you were saying, you just gave the rights, right? Okay, so digital rights signed off, right? But what are you mining out of it is not necessarily clear. You may not even mine anything, right? And the season is over. However, today, it's... and to that point, it has to be mutually beneficial, right? So, for instance, we do Indian Idol, right? We've just finished the 13th season last month. And that's a show that
13th season of Indian Idol.
13th season, talking about, fantastic team and a great partner in Sony. Does very well on TV, has its audience as whatever, right? And then the YouTube point that we made. We actually worked that out, and we have clips of that running. And then if you make it lucrative business-wise, where everyone's making money, then who's not going to be reasonable about it? So your point is very sharp. It is, how do you, in partnerships, find ways to mine that? That is one. And the other is, as far as owning IP is concerned, it's also what value you bring with that IP, right? So if I'm bringing you a format, and I'm bringing you the success rate, okay, in the US, this is what it's done. This is the audience that, it cut across with. This is the TG, this is whatever the demographics of that are. And you as a platform are looking for a similar kind of audience, right? And of course, my story, my localization is very important. We do that. That's part of the secret sauce of success. But then you can ask for these things because you're bringing something to the table.
So
you can't just go and flatten and say, here's my idea, I want to own the IP, and why would someone do that?
But what I'm hearing is fracture the IP and see how that goes between platform and production house, in effect.
I don't know if it's fractured IP. I think it's more about how do we turn this into a win-win situation for both, you know? Eventually, this is a business that you're running. You want to tell great stories, but people forget. If your business is robust, you will be able to tell the next great story, right?
Fair point.
That's really important.
Fair point. Second point that you were making, sorry, I interrupted you.
I think this second point you make, Ashish, around franchises and when will we see it. Look, we are clearly seeing emergence of two worlds. There's a whole episodic world, which allows literally ranges of, 2 lakh to 20 crore per episode. And that's where you're able to tap in all kind of talent, all kind of stories, and you're seeing some phenomenal stories emerge out of that. We're seeing global acclaim around that. We're seeing awards around that. Yeah. On the movie side, it's a little different. That's probably a little more true to Hindi cinema right now, not Bollywood, like you rightly said. That there's a bit of and I don't know where the issue lies, but there's certainly a little bit of shotgun on stories today. I mean, even if you see all the big major movies that would have come out in the last 12 months, 80% of them are remakes of either South or Hollywood movies. Your one big superhero is inspired from E.T. So unless we make our own superheroes, so we're doing that on the web. I think episodic content. I don't think there's enough of that excitement happening in the Hindi cinema. You see that happening in Telugu, Tamil. You see that happening in Malayalam. Streaming, fortunately, has democratized content, brought languages and consumers more closer, and hence we are suddenly discovering what was always there. We're suddenly discovering there's some great cinema there because they're making it with that kind of passion.
I think that's a very interesting point where you brought out on passion also. I don't know why, but I mean, when I was in the South, at Dakshin, the passion on that stage with all the South, it was just a different level. It was very, connected passion perhaps. They were very relatable. You could understand what they were saying a lot more than perhaps some of the Hindi cinema guys, you relate to. And I don't know whether I'm saying something completely rubbish here, but that was a feeling I got as an outsider to this industry. Okay, I'm going to ask the last question to Pablo, and then we'll have one final round for everyone to answer. So Pablo, if you look forward 3-4 years, okay, into this whole Indian content, releasing in China, do you think the market for Indian content is going to be bigger than it is today? Or do you think it's going to be at the same level? What's your prediction?
I think the market will be greater and bigger than before because, after the pandemic, the people traveling, people go there, people go there. So, according to the data, this May holiday, because in China we are having the May 1 to 6 holidays, 6 days. People traveling a lot, and every tourist site, people mountain, people say we have saying like 人山人海. You can't see it because you're only standing there, Like you have check this kind of on internet. So even that, the cinemas still full. Right now.
And you have 100,000 cinemas or something like that in China, right?
In China, actually, for screenings, we have 3,000 more than screenings.
Only for screenings.
Screens. And for cinemas we have like I didn't draw like we have screen that's 30,000.
And how many screens of that can an Indian movie release in? What's the biggest so far?
No, when we release India film or other foreigner films, we take much expensive PR fee.
Okay.
So mean to say every cinema will release our films.
Every cinema will release.
Every cinema
if
will.
the PR is good.
Yeah, but time. The problem is time. How long you can stay there? How long you can stay there? Because it also depends about the PR fee and also the content, whether the audience interesting or not. Because India film I like much because there's much dancing, singing, oh, very happy. So
That's good to hear.
People like that. People like that kind of films.
Oh, that's lovely. Natu. Okay, so now I've got a final question which I'd like all 5 of you to answer. Okay? Starting with Shariq. Okay? Okay, so, yeah, first, because, I mean, equality.
Yeah, I was feeling neglected, yeah. Ashish,
Yeah.
what is this?
Okay, the question is, only one sentence answers. One sentence answers, okay? You can't take a second sentence. The biggest change you expect to see in the next 2 to 3 years in Indian content production is?
Biggest change I expect to see.
That's a sentence.
No. I'm just clarifying. What I expect to see or what do I think will happen?
What do you think will happen? That you think will happen? The biggest change you think will happen in Indian content production in the next 2 to 3 years?
Okay, so I think, God, this is a tough one. I should have actually gone last in this. I agree with everyone. No, I think next 2 years will be a lot of uncertainty. Everyone is extremely confused from a theatrical perspective, what's working, what's not working. A lot of our superstars, actors are all back at the drawing board wondering what is the next step to take. So I think next 2 years you'll see a lot of introspection in terms of what they want out in 24, 25, because whatever is out in 23, whatever coming out in 23 has already been shot, and whatever is going to come out in 24 is pretty much on floor now. So I think there'll be a lot of, you'll see some fantastic new stuff coming out in the next 2 years. I expect the 3 Khans to bounce back. They're all, will be around 60 at that time, so they'll come up with probably their best work actually, because then they'll focus on
Quality.
getting their, act right rather than necessarily being the heroes or, whatever.
Heard of generative AI?
So, yeah.
And deep fakes and generative AI and deep fakes. The ads will never die. But okay, introspection, I get it. Introspection on the core product is what you think is going to be key.
And I think obviously, technical advancements, I think with virtual production is something everyone's talking about. I think we'll start. I think the infrastructure is being put in place. I think we're yet to figure out what is the software around it. So, we've managed to get our VFX post-shoot okay. How do we get it pre-shoot? And because, I mean, most producers, directors don't plan enough in advance, right? So if you're going for virtual production, you need to plan like 1 year in advance, and we're always, artist ka date mil gaya, to chalo 3 mahine mein chalu karo, So I think, so it's going to be exciting.
I watched 1899 on Netflix. It is bizarrely fantastic, and it's entirely shot on a 355 curved LED screen, and it's wow. So, I mean, if you haven't watched it, you must. It's phenomenal. Okay, that's one sentence too many. Okay. Pablo, what do you think is going to change in content production? How do you see it? Or distribution in your case? What's going to be the big change?
You mean actually for the content changing something, from my point of view, that we focus on women and kids.
The focus on women and children?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, what they are interested in, what they are like to do something.
Okay.
So invest will be there.
That's a very
they are the
interesting
world.
point.
Because they are the world.
They are the world.
Having the right to buy, to consume. That's our point, from my point of view.
Very interesting, Pablo. Aradhana, what's going to change in production?
So I think the current flux, business models, the money moving, digital, traditional, consolidation, merger, all of this is going to lead, in fact, almost force experimentation. And my hope is that at the end of that, we are going to have innovation in both business models, but most importantly, storytelling that should be a world class.
Storytelling, business models. Fantastic. Ashish.
So the first thing is the formula has to break.
The formula has to break.
Yes, so break that formula.
But why? When it works, sometimes continue.
Clearly it doesn't work most of the times. Sometimes yes. When you talk about the future, I feel it should be immersive. The content will become a little more immersive. It may become more collaborative. So by collaborative, I mean people will come together to create it. It could be between countries, like we are talking about India and China. It could be between production houses from north and south. to pull in their resources in terms of content creation, talent, which is already happening in a way. But I think we'll push the lever and make it happen more, because then that will be the India story.
So
it won't be driven.
Collaborative.
Yes.
That's a very good point as well. Rohit, now you're last.
I agree with all of them. Let me, I think hopefully all of this leads into something. For me, that something is very clear. Whether it's 2030 or 35, I don't know. But $10 trillion economy, $100 billion media sector.
Wow.
10 movies of $100 million plus every year.
10 movies of $100 million every year. Aapke muh mein ghee shakkar.
That to me will bring in the acclaim, the global appeal, the awards, everything. To me, that's,
Wow.
that's
Wow. I think that was a fantastic panel. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for this wonderful panel. I think it'll be very candid, controversial as well. So I love that. Any questions? We have about 2.5 minutes left. Yes, please, questions.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful discussion that we have been through. And yes, it has been a very learning experience for me, from all of you. But being from the northeastern part of India, I have a very basic question to all of you that we all feel out there. That is, I am Rupa Gogoi, a filmmaker, part of the team coming from Assam. But we see that in the OTT platforms and other medias, there are very little representation of stories from the northeastern region till now. So I would just like to know from you, Ashish and Anuradha, if you can show us the way. Why is this not happening? Why, in spite of there are so many wonderful stories from Northeast, we don't see the representation in the OTTs? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that has to be tougher than any question I asked on the panel.
So honestly, I mean, nobody is saying no to content from anywhere. Forget Northeast. So I mean, we all are open to receiving content from everywhere. The story, like I mentioned earlier, also could come from anywhere and be watched everywhere, right? So we are more than open to that. And probably there are fewer writers who've approached the right people. So I think as an industry also, you all should get together to push it, in terms of reaching out to more people from wherever. But there's absolutely no reason why anybody would say no to a good story coming from anywhere, let alone Northeast.
Anuradha, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, he said the thing about stories again. Unfortunately, scripted, I have to keep it under wraps because it's a partner's prerogative when we announce it. But I'll give you an unscripted example. Shillong Chamber Choir, Neil, God bless his soul, is from your region and our winner and known world over, right? Performed in front of Barack Obama, the President of India, all of them. So just remember, if there is authentic, genuine, great talent, then you got to find the way to get it to the right platform. That's what Ashish is saying. You push for it and get it there. It'll find wings.
Awesome. Anyone else? The question? Yes, over there. Yeah.
Industry. So for me, I want to tell stories that are not with cartoony, but like real people telling real stories about India. And so yes, that's my question.
I think we've had two very big successes of Indian animated product globally. Both, I think, are on Netflix. Right? One is called Mighty Little Bheem, which I believe ranked in the top 10 in 100 countries or something like that. Number 2 overall, right? I think it's a number 2 product. And I think the other one's called Deepu and the elephant or something, the little girl with the elephant. You're talking about adult? Yeah. So yeah, I'm coming to that. Yeah. So I'm saying we've started seeing Indian animation now going there. I think it's a matter of time, perhaps, that you will see this evolving into, as the genre grows per se, because India, non-cartoon animation in India is still a pretty small genre, right? I think as more and more content is created and that genre scales up, its audience scales up, it kind of feeds on itself. I think you'll see, I definitely think you'll see that, because as a father of 2 teenagers, I know what they watch. It's very different from the cartoons that I watched. I was Tom and Jerry and Donald Duck, right, when I was growing up. And I don't think they've ever seen a Tom and Jerry cartoon, right? It's a very different genre of stuff which I can't relate with. I'm hoping it does happen. I think it will happen, but you guys are the expert. Maybe you want to take that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think as an industry, over the years, we failed the entire animation industry to, and whether it's, I mean, all of us as consumers also, I think we need to share the blame. The exhibitors, distributors don't value it. The content creators are not making for it. There's no channel for them. There's no South Park or, Family Guy coming out, which is meant for, an adult audience and not just, the Pixar movies or whatever that we see, which is meant for family or whatever. And I don't think it's just animation. I think we failed our, the children's film industry. I mean, there's nothing for children to watch. Yeah. We do not create films where, children can go. I mean, you can count the number of movies where you can, which is age appropriate for children or with children protagonists. It's I think we're all to blame. And I think it's a mix of the, broadcasters, streaming platforms are there for the last 4 or 5 years, but broadcasters, the theater owners, producers, distributors, overall chain, I think, yes, does it need to be done? A friend of mine made Arjun the Prince, which was done, Arnab did it, a friend of ours, and, so and that was like 10 years ago, and no one else has attempted anything of that scale, since then. So, I mean, hats off to UTV and Arnab and whoever was there at that time. They tried it. Fortunately, unfortunately, for whatever reason, didn't work at the box office. And, if that doesn't happen, then, it's just a dampener and no one else further invests in it. So, as I think someone on the panel said, nothing succeeds like success. I mean, got a herd mentality. If that had worked, there would be more. But I agree. I think we should be, focusing on it. And I think you need a studio who kind of backs that, like right from day one, and and starts the journey now. So please start, and it'll be there.
And perhaps we should stop calling it as a cartoon and calling it as animation, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I love South Park and, and Family Guy. They're fantastic. BoJack Horseman, I mean, that's one of my favorite shows. It's just, but we just don't do it for whatever reason. Yeah.
Okay. Time's up. Oh, but okay, maybe a last question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Imtiaz Barolia. I'm from Zero Gravity Pictures. My company is doing 2 international co-productions. One is a large budget Indo-European American collaboration, and the second, the small $1 million Indo-American co-production. It took us 5 years, 6 years to put these projects together. We went to each and every studio in Bombay, each and every big producer in Bombay. Nobody wanted to touch an international co-production with a barge pole. They said, ये script हिंदी में बना के लाओ, यहाँ के actor लो, हमको UP, CCI, बिहार में समझ में आ रहा है. This is the truth. Finally, we put the project together, attached actors, we are going on the floor, but all my funding, all my co-producers are out of Europe, North America, and other places, but nobody from India came on board. So I'm just saying, there is a huge resistance here towards international co-production, which is very sad, because I think we have so many beautiful stories in India which need to travel the globe with international co-productions. Pablo, I'm kind of with you on this. I'm coming to you for a co-production. And Ashish, I want you to also take this question. You spoke about collaborations. I'm so glad to hear that, but we need to take it forward. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. No? Actually, you mentioned about correct, because being co-product with different countries, you have to follow different policy there. So it's taking time, and different culture, background, different language barrier is there. So the script somehow you have to make some bilingual or trilingual people are there who are living in India or who are living in China, but speaking Hindi or speaking Chinese. This could be make helps. So the script is once you have the script, you also can attend the international pitching. In China, We have a Shanghai Film Festival, we have Beijing Film Festival, we have a Silk Road Film Festival, we have Hainan Film Festival. We have First. We also have a youth festival that we call that the First. All people are from there. Bring your script, bring your story there, and the investors there would be there as well. If the story is okay, and you will get the first fund for the stories. So when you got the stories, it doesn't mean you success. You just make the first step for the co-production. So you have to looking for the cost. You have to looking for the celebrities. No, it's not mean to say you have to find the biggest characters from India or from China. No, you have to find the right person. You know the secret superstar, your film, the little girl, who knows, who cares? But she's very, very nice and very familiar, very famous. People in China loved her because that's life. That's life. You have to find normal life in your countries or in your co-production company countries. You have to find that. It takes time.
That's a beautiful point.
But you know, sir, I have no idea what your story is, and I know we're out of time, but I feel your pain. More power to you. May it be a huge success, and like we've all been saying, may you pave the way for many more like this.
Yeah, very good. And with that, we are completely and totally out of time. Thank you, everyone on the panel. It was very interesting to have you. I learned a lot as well. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for being with us.